I believe he was at Dunkirk actually. He's not around to ask again. He was in Durham Light Infantry in Seaforth Islanders for the full war, and was demobbed 6 years afterwards. I remember him telling me stories.
It all started during a notoriously candid segment on a late-night talk show, the kind designed to provoke headline-worthy moments. Tom Hardy, never one to shy away from intensity or emotional honesty, sat across from the host with a glint of mischief in his eye and a relaxed posture that betrayed none of the storm about to follow. The conversation had meandered through his usual themes: acting, physical transformations, dogs, the occasional deep dive into masculinity in modern cinema. But then the host posed a pointed challenge: name 5 celebrities you cannot stand. With a pause so measured it felt almost theatrical, Hardy accepted, and then he named them, 5 celebrities, each name spoken with crisp clarity, like punches in a verbal bout. No hedging, no disclaimers. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. There was an audible reaction from the studio audience. It was the kind of moment that made everyone lean forward, half disbelieving, half thrilled by the audacity. Hardy, with his signature gravelly voice and simmering intensity, didn't flinch. The names, well-known and mainstream, resonated like a gong. These weren't obscure figures or personalities irrelevant to Hardy's own career arc. They were peers, sometimes even collaborators, and in some cases icons in their own right. This wasn't a flippant move made in jest. It felt considered, deliberate, even if the delivery was wrapped in offhand confidence. What made the moment even more riveting was how Hardy offered no anecdotes, no justifications. He didn't relay tales of betrayal or backstage drama. He just let the names linger in the air, like arrows released but left to find their mark in silence. The lack of explanation made it more powerful, more unsettling. It shifted the spectacle from one of petty feud to one of moral judgment. These were not simply people he disliked. They were, by Hardy's implication, people he found fundamentally intolerable. In the world of celebrity culture, especially in Hollywood, where diplomacy is currency and alliances are often performative, such an act was rare, almost taboo. Stars might allude to tension or make vague references to creative disagreements, but few ever pull back the curtain with such bracing clarity. Tom Hardy's naming of names wasn't just an act of honesty, it was an unspoken critique of the very ecosystem in which he operates. His silence on the reasons only added gravity. It positioned the named individuals as symbols, almost archetypes, of something Hardy finds incompatible with his sense of integrity or professionalism. This moment didn't just electrify fans and media. It reshaped how Hardy was viewed in the public imagination. He had always exuded a kind of raw authenticity, a gruff charm that came with an edge. But this act elevated that image into something more mythic, more dangerous. He became a figure of defiance in an industry of pleasantries. The risk he took was enormous. Hollywood, for all its surface progressiveness, is tightly knit, political, and steeped in power dynamics. Naming enemies could easily backfire. It could lead to professional isolation, closed doors, whispered warnings during casting meetings. And yet, the boldness of the moment wasn't purely about rebellion. It revealed something deeper about Hardy's internal compass. Here was a man who, having experienced both critical acclaim and public scrutiny, had clearly reached a point where candor trumped caution. It suggested a belief that certain truths must be spoken, even at the expense of comfort or career calculus. For Hardy, this wasn't merely a list of people he disliked, it was a boundary being drawn, a refusal to participate in the silent complicity that often governs celebrity interactions. Each name he spoke carried its own resonance. Some were known for their public controversies, others for private temperament issues whispered about in trade circles but rarely confirmed. By speaking those names aloud, Hardy essentially validated the rumors and stories long floating around. It turned the spotlight onto them, not with accusatory finger-pointing, but with a quiet verdict that he didn't need to explain. That made the moment even more loaded. He wasn't gossiping, he was stating facts, at least from his perspective, and leaving the world to interpret what that meant. There's also a performative power in omission. Hardy's refusal to elaborate gave the moment a kind of unbreakable tension. It encouraged speculation, analysis, even obsession. Fans took to social media trying to decode the hidden narratives, to piece together film projects, interviews, and red carpet body language. Had there been a falling out during a particular shoot? Was there a misquoted comment in an old interview that had spiraled into something darker? Or was it more personal, something entirely outside the public eye? In Hardy's silence, space was created for 1,000 stories to be imagined. And in each one, he remained the solitary figure of resistance. It also cast a spotlight on the strange expectations we place on public figures. There's a persistent notion that celebrities must play nice, maintain decorum, and avoid controversy unless it's part of a carefully calculated PR campaign. But Hardy's gesture rejected all that. It was an exercise in power, not in the traditional sense of dominance, but in self-definition. He seized control of his narrative by refusing to dress it up. He wasn't offering content for clicks. He was, perhaps for the first time in such a raw format, broadcasting values. The moment's rawness had another subtler effect. It forced audiences to reflect on what honesty means in the context of fame. Do we value transparency only when it's palatable? When it confirms our existing biases or feeds our sense of scandal? Or are we ready to face uncomfortable truths when they're delivered without the cushion of diplomacy? Hardy's gesture posed these questions implicitly. It wasn't just about the 5 celebrities, though the weight of those names would ripple through gossip columns and online forums. It was about the system in which such an admission could feel like a transgression. This moment was also a reminder that authenticity often comes at a cost. There's bravery in stating what many may feel but few will voice, and there's vulnerability in standing alone against the tides of public expectation. Hardy's choice set him apart, but it may also have isolated him, at least temporarily. Hollywood's memory is long, and those named, some with immense clout, could easily leverage their influence in ways unseen. Yet, in a way, that made Hardy's move more significant. It wasn't a calculated blow. It was a revelation, one rooted in personal truth, whatever the consequences. The incident disrupted the usual rhythm of celebrity life. It didn't follow the script. There was no immediate apology, no backtracking, no post-interview clarification. Hardy didn't seek to soften the impact. He left it hanging in the air, unresolved and unrepentant. That silence became part of the drama. It allowed the act to take on symbolic meaning. It was as though Hardy had said to the industry, "I will not play your game. I will not pretend to like people I don't respect, and I don't owe anyone an explanation." In an era when branding often supersedes individuality, Hardy's candor felt almost revolutionary. Most celebrities are taught, often brutally, to manage their public personas with surgical precision. Everything must be weighed, measured, sanitized. But Hardy's approach rejected all that. His declaration wasn't about drama for drama's sake. It was about alignment with self. And in doing so, he drew a line not just between himself and those 5 names, but between authenticity and performance, between speaking out and staying silent. The media, predictably, erupted. The headlines were breathless, the speculation relentless. Every tabloid wanted the inside scoop. Every entertainment site ran deep dives into possible tensions and past interviews. But no amount of investigation could match the impact of Hardy's initial delivery. Because it wasn't just about gossip, it was about principle. And that made it dangerous. A celebrity naming their enemies isn't unprecedented, but doing so without spin, without framing, without a carefully packaged narrative, that was something else entirely. What's most striking is how Hardy's moment lingered, not just in the news cycle, but in the culture. It started conversations not just about who those celebrities were, but about what they represented. Was Hardy calling out toxicity? Was he pushing back against ego, entitlement, or injustice? Or was it simply a matter of personal chemistry and clashing values? We may never know the full story, but that's part of the power. By not elaborating, Hardy forced audiences to look beyond the surface, to consider not just who was named, but why the act of naming itself mattered. Even days after the interview aired, the reverberations hadn't settled. The entertainment world buzzed, insiders whispered, agents recalculated. But among fans, especially those long invested in Hardy's body of work and public persona, there was something else, a kind of reluctant admiration. He had dared to do what few would, not for applause, not for spectacle, but because it seemed necessary to him. And in doing so, he didn't just create a moment, he created a precedent. This wasn't a feud, it wasn't a stunt, it was a statement. And though it may have disrupted alliances and unsettled reputations, It also reaffirmed something vital about the role of artists in public life. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is tell the truth you carry, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. Hardy's decision to speak 5 names into the world wasn't just an act of honesty. It was an act of artistic defiance. It wasn't just who he named, but that he named them at all. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Tom Hardy revealing 5 celebrities who secretly hate him? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.